Hey friends, welcome back. My name is Elise, and this is 10 to Life, where we talk through all things true crime. Today we're going to be talking about updates in the case of Quinton Simon. There have been new revelations, there have been new charges, and we're going to talk about what's to come. So guys, let's jump right into it.
10 to Life with Elise starts right now.
For the last 2 months, many of us have become extremely close to the Quinton Simon disappearance in Savannah, Georgia. We have all watched as some of the family of this missing toddler evaded repercussions, blatantly disrespected law enforcement, who were painstakingly searching for Quinton when his own family barely even looked for him. It's been close to our minds and very heavy on our hearts, especially to those of us with kids of our own. We have been waiting for the day that justice would finally be served, and luckily, we have a major update in the case today. For those of you who aren't familiar with the case or need a good refresher, I strongly recommend you go back and watch my video from the beginning of the disappearance, as well as the later updates and the timeline breakdown in the playlist, and then you can head back to this video. I'm gonna link it in the description box, and I also will pin that playlist in the comment section. The brief rundown is that 20-month-old Quinton Simon disappeared on October 5th earlier this year. His mother, Leilani, reported him missing that morning and said that the door was open and she had no idea where he was. Well, a few days later, on October 11th, screenshots surfaced from Leilani's mother, Billie Jo, Quinton's grandmother, telling somebody via Facebook Messenger that Leilani was the one who killed Quinton and that he was somewhere in a landfill, but that Leilani had no recollection of what happened. So we were all on the edge of our seats, waiting for the confirmation from law enforcement to verify if this was true or not. On the next day, on October 12th, during a press conference, Leilani Simon was named as the primary suspect in the disappearance and presumed death of her 20-month-old son, Quinton. This was 7 days after Quinton went missing. On October 18th, it was announced that law enforcement had reason to believe that Quinton was in fact in a landfill, and that Leilani Simon dumped her toddler there, like trash, in a specific dumpster at a specific location. This led to police to begin the search of the Superior landfill at the waste management site on Little Neck Road in Savannah, Georgia. Many of us have been utterly perplexed as to why the Chatham County Police Department would be confident enough to publicly name Leilani as a suspect without even detaining her. After so many crazy episodes from the family and those surrounding them, it became more and more upsetting that Leilani was able to live freely while her 20-month-old son was missing and was presumed to be dead, according to police. As time went on, a lot of us had doubted that they would ever be successful in finding Quinton, because historically, landfill searches only yield results 5% of the time. Not only were those odds against the Chatham County Police Department, but the fact that they were looking for a person so small that had to have been inevitably crushed from the compaction made the odds even more slim. To make things worse, children and babies decompose at a much more rapid rate than adults do because of their low body mass, and a 20-month-old toddler still has very soft bones, which does not help the situation for obvious reasons. The searchers were working long over 12-hour days while also trying to avoid health hazards and other exposures. In the beginning, police told the public that they would spend as much time needed to search that landfill so that they could bring Quinton home. After a month and tediously sifting through 1.2 million pounds of trash, the search finally yielded the answers that were already suspected. The due process for the suspect is now just beginning. On Monday, November 19th, Chatham County Police Chief Jeff Hadley and an agent from the FBI gave a press conference discussing the latest updates in this case. It was announced that on November 18th, last week, the law enforcement searchers found what appeared to be human remains, including bones, which is just extremely lucky in this case. They took their samples and submitted them to the FBI Forensics Lab headquarters in Quantico, Virginia. Over the weekend, a preliminary sample came back positive for human remains. They are still working on DNA results, which could take a few days or even weeks, but they did test positive for human remains. And because of this, Chief Hadley with Chatham County Police Department said that based on the evidence found at the scene and around the scene, he was confident that these human remains were those of 20-month-old Quinton Simon. They also announced on November 21st, after the positive results came in, that Leilani Simon, Quinton's mother, was arrested and charged with malice murder, concealing the death of another person, false reporting, and making false statements in connection to the disappearance and death of her 20-month-old son, Quinton Simon. Chief Hadley said, "When we first received the call that Quinton was missing, we were hopeful that we would find him alive and unharmed. But as we have been telling the public for weeks, all of our evidence pointed to his mother being responsible for his death and his remains being found in a landfill." And he also said, fighting back tears, that this was just a heartbreaking development for everybody who loved Quinton and for the many people who came to know him after his disappearance and for their department.
Good evening, everybody. Jeff Hadley. I'm the Chief of Police for the Chatham County Police Department. I'm accompanied this evening by Will Clark with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This afternoon, Chatham County Police Department detectives arrested 22-year-old Leilani Simon and charged her with malice murder, concealing the death of another person, false reporting, and making false statements in connection with the disappearance and death of her son, 20-month-old Quinton Simon. Leilani Simon is being held at the Chatham County Detention Center and is awaiting a bond hearing. We do not anticipate any other arrests in this case. She has been the sole suspect from the beginning. On Friday, our search teams at the Waste Management landfill found what they believed were human remains. This afternoon, the FBI lab in Quantico, Virginia confirmed that they are, in fact, human remains. Additional testing, including a DNA analysis, is being conducted, and we have every reason to believe that this will confirm the remains are Quinton's. This is a heartbreaking development for everyone who loved Quinton, for the many people who came to know him after his disappearance, and for our department. When we first received the call that Quinton was missing, we were hopeful that we would find him alive and unharmed. But as we have been telling you for weeks, all of our evidence pointed to his mother being responsible for his death and disappearance and his remains being found in the landfill. I would like to thank the many people and agencies who worked hard to ensure that Quinton was found, that he would have a proper resting place, and that justice would be served. First and foremost, I want to thank the FBI. We are incredibly grateful for their invaluable assistance. Their expertise, their manpower, resources, and guidance are unmatched and were crucial in our efforts to find Quinton. They were on the scene within 3 hours of Quinton being reported missing and have assisted with every aspect of this investigation. The resources they poured into the landfill search are extraordinary and are the reason that we were able to find Quinton. I can't thank them enough. Chatham County Police Department's Criminal Investigation Division also deserves special recognition. Their devotion to Quinton, to making sure this crime did not go unsolved, is an example of police work at its finest. Our detectives worked tirelessly and were determined to follow every lead and uncover every piece of evidence in this case. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Chatham County Sheriff's Office, and Department of Natural Resources all had officers searching the landfill alongside our officers and the FBI. The support of the Chatham County Emergency Management Agency, Chatham Emergency Services, Chatham Occupational Safety and Health, Savannah Police, and Savannah Fire also were invaluable in this massive effort. Finally, I would like to thank the many people who showed their support for our department during this incredibly difficult and important investigation. We appreciate those who kept faith in the system and waited patiently for evidence we needed to make sure Quinton has every opportunity to receive the justice he deserves. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Will Clark, who has some comments from the FBI.
Good evening. My name is Will Clark. I'm the Senior Supervisory Resident Agent of the Savannah and Brunswick offices of the FBI. 1 month ago, we began this landfill search alongside Chatham County Police Department with one purpose in mind, and that was to find Quinton and to bring him home. On Friday, search crews from the FBI and Chatham County found what we preliminarily believe are partial remains from a human child. Those bones were immediately sent to our lab in Quantico, Virginia. Additional testing for potential confirmation is now underway. It could be days before we have final results. What happened to this 20-month-old child is unthinkable. No child should be harmed by anyone, let alone the person in their lives that should be their protector. This investigation does not end here. There is more work to do. The FBI, along with our law enforcement partners, will continue to find justice for Quinton. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll appreciate that. And we'll try to answer some questions that you may have. Just be mindful that there's many we may not be able to answer, but we'll be willing to take some questions at this time.
You charged Leilani with murder. You guys found bones in the landfill? Is that?
We found human remains. Yes, ma'am.
Chief, do you believe the
charged
point that
Leilani with
Quinton was
murder.
put in that dumpster, do you believe that he was alive then or had died before he was in the dumpster and then made it to the landfill?
Could you? I didn't hear the first part. I'm
Do
sorry.
you believe that Quinton Simon was alive when he was in the landfill? Do you believe he died before he was put in that dumpster?
I can't answer that question.
You've charged Leilani with murder. Can you speak on whether you think it was accidental or intentional?
I can't speak to that.
Can you talk a little bit about what evidence you all confirmed or learned on Friday led you all to go ahead and make that arrest specifically for today versus earlier on?
Well, as we had said from the beginning with the landfill, we had every belief that Quinton was there in the landfill. Having found what we found on Friday and the preliminary findings from the FBI that we got today led us to make an arrest today. We feel that we have a very strong case. We have put thousands of hours into this, and we believed that this was the right move today to be able to do that. She doesn't deserve a Thanksgiving, quite frankly, if I can go off script a little bit. Quinton deserves that.
You said that you didn't believe any other arrests would be made. Are you guys looking into Billy Joe at all?
We are not.
And so you, just to confirm and kind of clarify that you all were looking to find some sort of remains from the body to go ahead and move forward with an arrest.
That's correct.
Chief, would the charges have been the same in this case had you not made that discovery on Friday? Say if this case had continued and the search found nothing in the landfill, would you still have been able to make a case for Quinton to have justice, or how significant was this find?
Well, it was very significant, obviously, for obvious reasons. We do believe we had a strong case otherwise, but that would have been in counsel with the Chatham County District Attorney's Office, but we believe we had a strong case otherwise.
You've certainly been very personal about this, and you said in that landfill that day with the picture behind you said, we want to make sure we bring Quinton home and we give him a final place of rest. You wanted him to be able to make sure he wasn't in that dump. On Friday, how personal was that find for you?
Well, it was very personal, quite frankly. I mean, there's a lot of aspects to that. I mean, knowing the hard work that went into this investigation, everybody, not just Chatham County Police Department, but everybody that chipped in, the FBI, GBI, DNR, Chatham County Sheriff's Office, the civilians, you name it, from A to Z, we were 100% committed to bringing justice for Quinton. And to appreciate the amount of human effort, the amount of human emotion that goes into a case like this, and to appreciate, hopefully, that this comes to a conclusion in terms of a conviction and things of that nature. You have a lot of emotions about that. You also have a lot of emotions as just a general human being, as a person who has children. You see the impact that has on people. So if you step back and take a moment to kind of absorb that, I think that if you didn't have any feelings about that, you might have to ask yourself a few questions.
Chief,
Is
like,
there
what
any
is
evidence
status
collected
of
outside of the search in the landfill, the remains that you guys found on Friday? Is there any evidence you guys found in the searches you guys did of the pool, cell phones or computers or anything that also led to the arrest?
I can't answer that.
Has Leilani's status as a flight risk changed, or did it change prior to the arrest?
No.
Chief, you say this is preliminary. What, you would assume there isn't other human remains in that landfill, but until you get it fully 100% confirmed that these are Quinton's remains, what makes you confident to make the arrest today?
I can't get into the high level of detail, but just on some of the preliminary information that we got from the FBI, we have a high level of confidence that those are Quinton's remains. And we felt that we needed to make the arrest today because that was the right thing to do.
Chief, there was a lot of pressure in the last.
What kind of remains are we talking when you say human remains? Any more specific details about?
No, ma'am. Go ahead, bro.
Chief, this case has been one that has made national news.
Mhm.
There's been a lot of pressure against you personally, with your name out of the mouths of protesters, out of the mouths of the people in the community.
Mhm.
You've gotten a lot of pressure about making this arrest. Standing here today, knowing that you have this key piece of evidence that you just said, what kind of message do you send to the community? For the people, A, that had your back, that said, yes, we're going to wait on the police to do this, and then to the people who said this arrest should have happened almost 50 days ago?
Well, I didn't honestly feel a lot of pressure, quite frankly, only because I believed that our investigative process, the expertise that we were seeking that was around us, having a little bit of experience, in this profession, I understood people's perspective. I understood that, some people had their own strong feelings about when an arrest should be made and things that were going on. But we stayed focused on what we know and what we know how to do. And in conjunction with the FBI, we stayed the course. And so to those folks that supported us, to the citizens that believed in us and believed in our department, I thank you. And for those that had questions, that's their right to do so. This is America. You can have all the opinions you want, but I'm just so proud of our team and where we're at today.
As far as today's conclusion, do you feel like there's a sense of relief as far as you all officers, FBI agents, to come to an arrest to go ahead and move forward with this case?
Sure there is. I wouldn't be honest if I didn't say that there was, some weight lifted off of the organization and particularly those detectives and investigators who were completely and 100% committed to seeking justice for Quinton. So there is a little bit of relief, but be mindful there's still a lot of work to do, and they're dedicated to doing that, and we want to see this to successful prosecution.
I got a two-parter. Is the landfill search over?
We haven't made that decision yet. That's a decision point that we'll come to once we're able to get some more analysis done, and we'll confer with the FBI and see what the best course of action is.
And Leilani is also charged with making false statements. What false statements did she make?
I can't get into that.
Is she cooperating with police right now? Is Leilani cooperating with police?
She's at the Chatham County Detention Center right now.
And so I wanted to go back to the initial question that I asked about whether or not you guys found bones in the landfill, because Mr. Parker said bones and you said human remains. Which one is it?
Well, human remains. Some of that are some of them are human bones, and some other evidentiary matter. So.
And as far as the bond, is there do you all have any updates as to when that will be, the bond hearing, when that will be?
I do not have that confirmed. I do believe it'll take place tomorrow, but I don't have any time or any confirmation on that. We did, take her to the detention center rather late in the day, so I'm sure that information will come out pretty soon.
Leilani made a statement to me that she would turn herself in. Was there any talk of giving her that opportunity?
No. Right.
Chief, you said in the beginning that when we were at the landfill, you said that there was a very specific dumpster that this child was put in. Can you just give us the location of that? How far this was from the house where Quinton was last seen?
I can't give you that information.
I just have one more question. Can you just give
Last
us
question.
an estimate on how long this analysis could take of what you guys found?
It could take up to a week. And I have one last comment, and I want to thank you guys. Because just like sometimes law enforcement gets the short end of the stick, you guys get the short end of the stick too. And you guys have been amazing, our local media throughout this. You've been fair, you've been direct, you've asked good questions, and you've, given us some deference when we needed some deference. And so I just wanted to say thank you for your work that you do every day. Thank you.
There are no other suspects being investigated at this time. It is still an ongoing investigation as they still do not have confirmed DNA or cause and manner of death. Now let's just talk a little bit about the parallels between Casey Anthony and Leilani Simon, especially during that 6-week window between announcing Leilani as a suspect and then charging Leilani with Quinton's murder. Leilani wasn't just living freely during those 6 weeks, but she was living her best life. Leilani was seen at a popular bar in Tybee Island with her mother, Billie Joe, just ripping shots with each other and getting wasted. That's right, while FBI agents were searching for her 20-month-old baby in a landfill, Leilani and her mother, Quinton's grandmother, were just turning up at the bar, racking up a $300 tab. Then, in the following days, several protesters stood out front of the home that Billie Joe and Leilani lived in, demanding answers and begging for accountability for what happened to Quinton. Rather than shamefully staying inside to avoid these protesters, both Billie Joe and Leilani taunted them. They sat out front with lounge chairs and would drink, smile, laugh as though nothing was wrong, all while knowing that Quinton was dead and law enforcement still hadn't located his remains. Were they celebrating? Did they think they got away with it? This case is very similar to Casey Anthony and when she went out partying as the search for little Kaylee was on. She was drinking, dancing on tables, and even got a tattoo that translated to the good life. It didn't end there either. Leilani also finally gave a public interview in which, in my opinion, she showed no emotion, she had fake crocodile tears, and was acting as though she was a grief-stricken mother whose baby was taken. All the while, Billie Joe was standing next to her and couldn't even make eye contact with Leilani, which I suspect is because she knew Leilani was telling blatant lies.
We're in limbo just like everybody else is. We're sitting here every day waiting for answers. Being in this house is hard. My mother and I can't even stay inside throughout the day. We always are outside because there's just so many memories that we don't know if we're going to have again. We wake up every day angry, hoping that we're going to get a phone call, and that phone call just doesn't come. Hard to even process what's going on around us. We get to the point that we have to barricade our own home in order to feel safe in our backyard. Because we can't even process what's happening everywhere else, or even have the time to do so. I can't even walk out and appreciate my own son's memorial or put down the gifts that I got for him. I can't even go out there and do that without harassment and negligence and just everything. It's devastating to see that this is how the outside world reacts. Every day that goes by is less tears and more anger, not knowing what's happening, if that's even understandable. You wake up every day angry, hoping that you're going to get a phone call, and that phone call just doesn't come.
We want something great to come out of this, but mostly we want him not to be found in that landfill. We want him found
happy and alive. We want him back in our arms, holding us. That's what we want. We're just hoping that he's in somebody's house and they're feeding him, and they are hoping that, maybe they wanted a baby or couldn't have a baby. Maybe they thought they were his savior. But it's not. That's their best hopes at this point.
Although law enforcement has said that they don't have any other suspects being investigated at this time, I can't help but wonder if that means no other suspects only for murder charges, and if there will be other charges. Will Billie Joe be charged with lesser charges, such as neglect or false statements to police? Surely she knew more than she was saying, and quite frankly, she is equally responsible for what happened to Quinton as a result of her leaving him in Leilani's care. So what accountability will be had for that? I have to say, I am so proud of the efforts made by law enforcement in this case. I know there were so many of us who were upset when police didn't immediately arrest Leilani after naming her a suspect. However, everything the police have said so far in this case has been true. They told us early on that Leilani wasn't a flight risk, which we still don't know why she wasn't, but they were clearly right. Not only did she not flee, but she put herself front and center and almost kind of viewed herself as like a B-list celebrity and was out front with the protesters, was doing these interviews, was drinking. It was unbelievable. They also said for weeks that the evidence had always pointed to the landfill, and they knew that Quinton was in there, which they found him. They vowed early on to do everything they could to bring Quinton Simon home and get him the justice he deserves. They did just that, and I'm just so grateful that people actually cared in this, because the police treated Quinton Simon more like family than Quinton's actual family did. Thankfully, Leilani is finally charged with the murder, and now we just wait to see if any other charges will follow. I also think it's important to mention that Georgia does carry the death penalty. So we will see what the outcome is after this trial. I will keep you updated as we learn more in this case. We still don't know probable cause. We still don't know cause or manner of death. And I don't know, guys, something is pulling at me that Billie Joe might get some charges. Definitely not murder charges, I don't think, but some charges. Because there have been screenshots flying all over the internet about her confiding in different people and different creators about where they found him, when they found him, who was involved, what they knew, what they didn't. So clearly she knew more than she was saying. Unless this entire time she was pretending to be friendly with her daughter, Leilani, to get more information and then submit it to the police almost as though she's an informant. But that hasn't been announced, and truthfully, based on her behavior, I can't imagine that that's the situation and that she is just some expert witness informant. But who knows? We could all be surprised here. So I'll keep you updated as we continue to get breaking news in this case. I am just so beyond thankful that we are one step closer to getting justice for little Quinton. And I'm happy that this happened before the holidays so that Leilani didn't get to spend any more free days outside or any holidays outside. She is now being locked up, and I am very thankful for that. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And until the next one, stay safe. Bye.